Kristen.
And I'm Jen.
Hello, everybody. How's it going?
Hi.
How's it going? Like entering into December. How's it feeling? How's it?
Oh my gosh.
Run me
Honestly,
over. Just
November
feeling.
was non-existent to me. I have no idea how Thanksgiving not only came, but also went so quickly. It was like a blur. So I'm kind of in shock, and it's already December 5th, and I haven't been able to emotionally accept it quite yet.
Yeah. Every time I think about the fact that the New Year is in like 3 weeks, I'm like, I'm going to go lie down on the runway and just have the plane drive over me because this is bullshit.
Yeah, we haven't had any rain, so it just doesn't really feel wintry enough for me. And I really want to see snow, but too lazy to look up if there's going to be any snow in Big Bear or what is that other place? Mount Baldy. Anyways.
So yeah, actually, I heard a hiker say that there was snow up on Baldy like 3 weeks ago.
Are you serious?
Yeah, when it rained like really heavy, we had that atmospheric river thing.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a much shorter drive than freaking and less windy than Big Bear.
Oh, is it?
Oh my God, Big Bear sometimes just gives me the fucking creeps.
Okay.
And I think I'm getting too old to handle that height, swirly road up there. I don't like it.
Yeah.
But I did put my tree up, and I have wrapped some presents. So I'm moving forward, and I think the only thing that really propels me is because Noah is so little, and I want to
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think otherwise, I would be like in my dark hole, like in my room, just trying to watch. I'm trying to watch Christmas movies to get in the mood, but one pickings out there. I mean, Sexy Frosty, man. I don't know.
Frosty, get it right.
Sorry.
Sexy Frosty. Sexy Frosty is found on that other website.
I did watch Gentleman Christmas or whatever with the strippers.
Yeah.
With the male erotic dancers. Although I found it to be like kind of stupid, in the end it kind of got me. So
they're all the same. It's the exact same setup of movie, the exact same ending. There's no surprise at all with these like Lifetime / Hallmark / romantasy type Christmas movies, but I enjoy them. That's what I enjoy about them. I never watch those kinds of films. I don't have cable, so I don't ever watch Lifetime or anything like that. And it just is kind of like an escape. And even though I know that the formula of the movie is going to be the exact same, and the small town boy or girl is going to discover the miracle of Christmas at the end, I still enjoy it. But I have been staying away from them specifically because my mom comes into town for Christmas, and we will make either mulled wine or sangria and sit down and watch Christmas movies. And she does have cable, so she's probably watched all of the 2024 releases from this year. But what she doesn't have is Hulu or Netflix. And Hulu and Netflix come out with new movies every year, Hot Frosty being one of them. I've heard horrible reviews of it, but I don't care. I'm looking forward to reading it, to watching it.
Incredible.
Yeah, the new Lindsay Lohan one, which is God, what was it? It was like Christmas Secret. Where yeah, I saw that one, and that's when I was like, wait, Lindsay didn't look like this.
She had one last year too that was pretty good.
Actually, for the last 3 years, she had like an Irish Wish or something, and then
yes.
It was something about like her being rich and having amnesia. It was like
yes, the amnesia one. I remember that one.
The Overboard movie with Goldie Hawn and So we know too much.
I don't know. I don't know what happened in like my childhood or like how I grew up or something like that. But I feel like every year I lose less patience and more of whatever the joy of Christmas is because that bitch is gone. She doesn't participate. You have no idea how much I hate Christmas music.
Oh, I hate Christmas music too.
Yeah.
Oh my God, thank God for
working for
headphones, because as soon as I'm going into the store, I just put them on and listen to, like, I don't know, Black Sabbath, Dead Can Dance. I don't know.
No, it's oh. Okay, here's the thing about working in a place that, one, has a connection to a speaker, and two, has more than half of the employees so pumped about Christmas. They play Christmas music for at least 4 hours straight. And I'm like, I'm gonna kill myself.
I used to abhor K-Earth 101
Oh, God.
because during the holiday, and it wasn't even during the holiday, I want to say November fucking 1st, they would start playing Christmas music nonstop. Not even with an errant Phil Collins or Mariah Carey in there that was non-Christmas. It was non-stop Christmas music. You wouldn't even think that there was that many Christmas songs.
Yeah.
But
They're-
they were
Apparently,
able to do.
you're
Oh, it
wrong.
was K-Big, not K-Earth. Eddie was saying.
Yeah, they're still doing it now. I'm
Oh my God, I hate it.
my car this the touch screen doesn't work anymore, so I can't change the preset stations. So whenever I don't connect my phone, I'm stuck with the radio, and yes, I come across that all Christmas, all day, every day station at least.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
horrible. I just move on because it's just oh my.
And I kind of, for a funsies, participate in Whamageddon every year. And so for those of you who don't know, basically Whamageddon is this fun game that you play with your friends that you try to make it through the entire month of December without hearing Wham's Last Christmas. And now Sarah ruined it for happy listeners.
Incredible. I didn't even. I'm gonna scream. I'm gonna scream.
It's only December 5th, and I've already been ruined because some TikToker had it on their thing, and it took me a while to actually realize what I was hearing and listening to, and then I was like, "Damn it, I already lost."
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's incredible. But yeah, like I have to every morning I have to like be like, you're gonna get through this. It's the holidays. Their people are happy, and no matter how much you want to crush their joy, you shouldn't do that. Because you're like maybe a good person. So it was really hard though. It's really hard.
We're not for sure, just maybe.
Yeah, just not sure.
It's crazy out there. I mean, I've been shopping here and there for people, and people are driving crazier out there. They're less patient. They will give you really bad looks out in public, and there's long lines, and people are just. I think it's a.
I almost ripped someone's throat out today.
I
My
bet.
goodness.
I bet.
Mhm.
Yep, I could see that happening.
But one of these days, someone's gonna get on my last nerve, and I'm gonna end up in jail.
Yeah.
Well,
I know.
we'll write because we can't afford to bail you out.
Nice.
Nice. All right, guys, it's time for Chisme de la Semana. And I got some chisme. It's kind of old. It was announced at New York Comic Con 2024. Who knows when that was? But it was announced by Jim Lee. And he said fans can look forward to the new Vertigo release starting 2025. And if you don't know what it is, Vertigo is an imprint from DC Comics that was, I guess, it was born back in the 1990s, and it was just really
No,
awesome. We got this
earlier.
earlier than the 1990s.
Yeah,
1980s?
because the first issue of San Juan, I think, was in 1989.
Oh, late 80s. Nice. So it's supposed to, this imprint will be delivering bold, boundary pushing narratives across various genres, and is also stating that the imprint will be overseen by DC editor Chris Conroy. I don't know what he does, but it sounds very cool. I almost said Kevin Conroy, which we all know is the real Batman.
Rib King.
Yep. on the heels of Jim Lee stating this, they also stated that they're the people that oversaw the Black Label comics. I really was not familiar with Black Label because that was after I stopped collecting DC Vertigo comics, so not familiar with that. But I guess it's similar. What do you girls say? Similar to DC Comics?
So Vertigo was the mature content imprint of DC Comics. And so, as Jen already shared, one of their major titles was Sandman. And
Swamp Thing.
yes, I was gonna say Swamp Thing, uh Preacher, Scalped, I think might have been.
Yeah,
No, was
Scalp.
it?
I
But
think so.
I'm not sure if Scalped was or not, but in that genre of storytelling for comics, it was more mature and not superhero involved. And
Yeah.
so Vertigo actually was actively publishing all the way up until like 2018, maybe 20. I think
wanna
18,
say
maybe
so.
19, maybe
Yeah.
not 19. But anyhow, there was a gap of any new titles that had ever been printed and published on the Vertigo imprint for quite some time until DC came out and said, we are going to quote unquote relaunch Vertigo with these amazing titles. And Sarah and I actually attended that panel at Comic-Con that year. I don't remember what year it was,
Actually,
but
it was Jen and you. I didn't get a chance to.
oh,
I
it was
actually-
okay.
yeah.
I knew it was only two of us. So they talked about, I think, 4 different titles that were supposed to be launched, and only
I think one was the Black Klansman, I believe, wasn't it? Or
that's not what it was called, but
No, it was like Black Klansman-esque.
yeah. But I don't even think maybe one of those books got of that particular title. It was something America. Something I want to say was the word America was in the title. But it was I think it's been long enough we can actually address the fact that we spoke a lot about the first book that was printed and published by the new Vertigo relaunch, which was Border Town, which I don't even remember the name of the dude, and I think that's for the best.
yes, I was gonna say it, but I'm like,
I don't remember his, but Eric something or other.
yeah.
And so, unfortunately, what happened was there was a scandal that broke with the Eric dude's name, whose last name I can't remember now, and who Sarah refuses to say aloud.
I will.
And unfortunately, it was such a big thing in the comic book industry that we don't know this for sure, but I think personally, it really put a big painted stain on the relaunch, and none of the other books ever got off the ground. And it was really unfortunate because it was there were some titles on there that I was really looking forward to. I think one of them was the quote unquote Black Klansman, which that's not at all what it was called, but basically the storyline was Brian Hill had done a lot of research on kind of like the dark web of like white supremacy. And he was going to write a comic around the stuff that he'd learned. And so, or he had written one. And I was really looking forward to that. And Brian is one of my favorite writers. I really love all the stuff that he's done with Top Cow and just all the stories that I've ever read by him. And we never really even got to see it. I think maybe one issue came out, but so after that was scrapped by DC, that was when they kind of, I think, were like, we still have these more grittier adult stories that we want to tell. Let's try to repackage our idea of relaunching Vertigo, but let's call it Black Label. And also, let's make them all oversized books that won't fit on any retailer shelves
Or bag and
in
board.
any collector's boxes, short boxes or long boxes. So that was their grand idea.
Yeah. And not only that, Black Label is now infamously, to me at least, ever known as the Batman stick label.
Oh, yes. So, Batman, what was it? And I don't remember what the title of the Batman book was, but
I'm not gonna lie. Those just,
famously,
yeah.
famously, as Jen just mentioned, one of the first books that was printed under the Black Label was a Batman book that famously, it's not even showcased or like, it was a shadow of Batman's penis.
Yes.
And that book flew off the wall, and there was so much also scandal around it that it had to be reprinted and taken out of the book. So if you have one of the original prints, it's not worth any money anymore, really. The hype kind of blew out the window. It's a penis. 50% of the population has one. Like, who cares? But anyway, that was their grand entry into the comic book world. And honestly, I hated it. Not Batman's penis per se, but I hated the oversized books. And it was just a big pain in the butt for retailers. So I'm kind of glad that I'm hoping that, I don't know if in the article that you read, Sarah, if it mentioning anything about going back to normal size comics, but I hope exactly what happened.
I hope
Well,
so
we
too.
really need to know, damn it.
Yeah,
That
and not only that, like the DC Black Label is still very much like superhero comics, but like rated M or whatever, which is Vertigo never really was about superhero stuff.
Mhm.
So I think they noticed that as well. Like there's these stories that they wanted to tell, but they weren't superhero-esque or they were too risque, and they still are. And I think the whole like after a while too, you really the fact that one of the previous things about DC Vertigo comics and the effect that they couldn't they never made it off the ground, some issues due to, and I was looking it up because I was like, why did the other ones not publish? And it was due to like either like flashback about people who were doing it, or it was like about content and stuff like that, and they later got reprinted in other indie studios. I think it was also a thing about because they weren't Vertigo anymore. They were DC Black Label, so they had the DC name attached. And these DC Comics probably didn't want the content to be associated with them. So this is also another way of being like, oh yeah, this is maybe ours or not, but adding that extra distance as well. So non-superhero, risque, much more mature, and I hope they're able to stick with it. I hope they don't cancel anything just because they receive negative feedback on something, because I think what was it? Some of those comics were really interesting and they had great premises. And yeah, and they were well written. What is it? American Carnage one? I always wanted to know more about that one, but that one made it maybe 2 or 3 issues out.
That's the one that we're talking about. I knew it had America in it somehow.
Yeah, American
by Brian
Carnage.
Hill. Yeah.
Super interesting. Yeah.
Mhm. And so hopefully hopefully this creates the distance that they want and that they are able to publish these stories, because Vertigo has always been so innovative and so very boundary pushing, either in regards to art style, story style, or even just like plain like content. It's just, I think a lot of Vertigo titles were so very much more well written than
regular
what DC was putting out.
Yeah. And there's a lot of controversy with the last the last ending of the Vertigo relaunching, because they were also saying that Second Coming was canceled before it was even released because of controversy portrayed in religious material.
Oh my God, that book was taken on by another publishing company and they released it, and it was the funniest freaking book about Jesus coming back to earth. that you will ever read. It is so good.
Second coming. It was published by Ahoy Comics.
I loved that book. It was so good. So if you guys want to read some sacrilegious Jesus comics for the Christmas holiday season, definitely pick up Second Coming.
Yeah. It's not like he's real.
Well, like you said, other titles were taken on by others. Like Safe Sex was moved over to Image Comics, so a lot of that stuff happened. And now let's see what happens in 2025 with Vertigo. Let's see what's going on there. I mean, it's gonna be hard to follow.
2025 is gonna be a crapshoot for the entire comic industry as a whole. So yes, crossing your fingers and your toes. And honestly, don't hold your breath because who knows what's going to happen. But I just was having this conversation with Eddie the other day. What needs to happen is that we just need to become flexible and evolve with whatever does happen, because there's just too many old guards still in the industry that just want to complain about how it's not like it was in the old days. And that's not helpful or beneficial. It doesn't help to support and actually move the industry forward in any way, shape, or form. So whatever happens, we will acknowledge and move on.
Drop dead.
Acknowledge and move on. And so are we to the next segment. It is time for On My Radar. ¿Qué tienes en tu radar, Kristen?
I had to look because I forgot what it was. I was looking to see what the new releases were this week because I don't get books coming into my life every week like I used to. I actually have to look up the information these days, like some kind of like regular person.
Right?
Yeah, a normie. But look what I came up with. It is actually super interesting and very timely given our friend Henry Barajas' book that is coming out called
Death to Pachuco.
Yes, Death to Pachuco, a like Latino crime noir story. This book is called Calavera P.I. and it is published by Oni Press. And the description says, sometimes it takes a dead man to crack the case. From the desk of rising star Marco Finnegan, walk the shadow-shrouded alleys of Hollywoodland to solve the mystery of Calavera, a newly resurrected private investigator whose first case is about to straddle the blood-soaked boundaries between the living and the dead. In 1925, Juan Calavera died a hero. After a career spent outside the law, defending the Chicano barrios where the police refused to operate, he earned a reputation for fearlessness and a gunshot in the stomach. Now, 5 years later, on Dia de los Muertos, his restless spirit has been summoned from the grave to help a desperate former colleague unravel a kidnapping all too close to home. With only days to solve the case before he is called back to the underworld, can Calavera reveal the identity of the masked human trafficker known as La Fantasma before tragedy strikes again, and solve the mystery of his own murder in the process? So it is written by Marco Finnegan, who in an interview said that he has always been a fan of crime noir, but never saw himself or Chicano stories in the movies or even in the books that he would read. And he said that he saw a piece of art, and I can't remember who he said the artist was, but was basically a calavera dressed up as a private investigator drinking like at a bar. And he said that really kind of just got him thinking creatively about what would it be like to have this kind of like cultural, not identity, but cultural, like part of Latino culture into the genre of crime noir. And so Calavera P.I. is what came from that. So the second issue is actually out this week. Today's December 5th that we are recording, despite when you might be listening. The first issue was out in November. It is a 4-issue miniseries, so it should still be available for either at your local comic shop on the shelf already, or available to reorder if you are interested. So also means you don't have that long to wait for a trade to come out once they collect all 4 issues. So again, that's CALAVERA PI, published by Oni Press, and Marco Finnegan is the writer and artist.
Oh, fancy. You know, I like that when they do both. I think it's super
Yeah,
talented.
and although his name doesn't only half sound Latino, he does talk about being Latino in his interviews.
Oh, good. Yeah, we need to know more. But yeah, that sounds really cool. Actually, it reminds me a little bit. So he's doing a book, like sort of like Calavera, Day of the Dead, with like a PI investigative noir kind of thing.
Mhm.
I really would have. I think it would have made a big difference if he was introduced to like the movies of like El Santo, Mil Máscaras, because they did kind of a noir kind of crime solving, crime fighting, but with a luchador spin. So
Oh, uh-huh.
see how that happens, guys? How the stories are born. But yes. All right, guys, you know what time it is? Is my favorite time of the segment. It is La Hora de la Cervecita. What are we drinking today, ladies?
Stockyard Oatmeal Stout.
You know how I read it? Stockyard.
Stockyard?
Like what? Oh, I do. Whatever.
That's funny. So this is a deliciously creamy stout in the Irish tradition with its rich tan head intact. This deep and dark colored beer has the aroma and flavor of chocolate, roasted oats, and coffee, all derived from the specialty malts used in the brewing process. So this is from the Josephsbrau Brewing Company, which is located in San Jose, California, Jen. So if you are interested, you should check it out. You can have this whenever you want. And it has an ABV of 5.2.
Excellent. I
Oh,
screwed up.
Interesting.
That's how I screwed it up. I didn't.
Oh, tell what?
I'm
Just
pouring
Bravo
into a glass.
Company.
Smells
It
good.
smells delicious,
Oh,
actually.
it smells great.
Oh, that's gonna take forever. But I am trying.
Her little tab broke off when she tried to open her can, for those of you who can't see. And so there's just a tiny little slit that her beer is pouring through, and she's trying to fill her glass, but it is taking a very long time.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna fill a little bit and drink it. So the
Oh.
smell is pretty amazing. I could smell the oatmeal. I could
saw
smell the chocolate
right off the
and,
bat. Yeah.
a little bit of
I smell
coffee?
cinnamon, kind of.
or cinnamon.
Oh,
too.
yeah. Coffee.
Cinnamon for
Mhm.
sure. Okay, let's see.
This is so
Whoa.
delicious to me.
Wow. I love it, all right?
It's
very, very
really
coffee.
good.
This is so the season for sure. I could smell
Ugh.
the tree in the
Yes.
background. I could have this, and all I need is a fireplace. That's all I need.
Fall and winter definitely traditionally are stout and porter season, because those are beers that are more hefty. I know that that's not a regular beer description word, but like they're thick and hearty, and they won't sit heavy in your stomach on a hot summer day. Also heavy IPAs probably are for me anyway a little bit more easily enjoyed during the winter months than they are during the summer months. I usually drink lagers and pilsners during the summertime. But I have grown to appreciate more stouts and porters through this segment and through the beers that Sarah has chosen. because I don't like coffee. You guys all know, all the listeners are tired of hearing me say that not that I don't like coffee. I don't drink coffee. I don't like the taste of coffee without sugar and cream. And the pan dulce to dip inside of it.
Oh my
Of
god.
Maybe
course,
that's
of
the
course.
key. Maybe I need to start dipping conchas
Yeah.
into my stout.
Just saying that, I just pictured drinking this and having like a side of concha. Like, I think that would have been just wonderful. And look at the nice thickness of the head. It sort of looks all
Tan.
like a
Yeah.
creamy, kind of buttery. Looks good. That's another flavor that in the back, I feel like kind of a buttery smoothness.
Yeah. It's so good. It tastes so good.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this.
It's like to me it's like it's very reminiscent of almost like an oatmeal raisin cookie with that someone put coffee and chocolate chips inside.
Yes,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
delicious.
Yeah, it has
Delicious.
a multitude of flavor levels to this, and I really appreciate that, including that thick. If you give it some head, that thick kind of buttery taste of the head of the beer when you pour it. So I'm surprised. It's such kind of a sad can art because you just have a picture of an old guy. I guess he's Irish.
Just
And
an old guy who's a
sad.
celeb.
And can art.
like okay, well, I guess. I mean, maybe if you dress it up a little, it could be a little vintage. But no, it's a little sad. Like I don't know, like it needs something. But
You could be talking smack about whoever it is that's like who created this brewing company, you know.
well, in that case, I take it back. A year fellow, I love this
Fellow.
cat. Fellow.
I'm assuming he's Joseph.
I think he's Joseph. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, Joseph. This particular oatmeal stout is very delicious. Yeah. I mean, your picture's fine. I just think the background is so lame. Like, I don't know.
Well, it's the art of a stockyard.
Ah, that makes sense. It look
Well, it's not. I don't know about art, but it's the picture of a literal stockyard behind him.
okay. Got it. All right. Well, in that case, then you achieved your goal, sir.
Mhm.
There's big old cows in the back.
Oh, is that what those are?
Yeah.
Oh,
Literal
I see the-
stock.
I see the udders. I see the udders, guys.
Yes.
I had to put my glasses on.
Mhm.
But anyway, yes, I didn't care for the can art, but it was a good deal at Trader Joe's, and I thought, well, we do need some oatmeal stouts for the season to review, so that's why this particular can got picked up at Trader Joe's.
Nice.
It was a nice spin that it's from San Jose, which then made me think of Jen, and I was like, perfect, it'll fit right in, and to my surprise, the level of flavors on this beer was surprisingly delicious. So I'm pleasantly surprised. Are we ready to rate it?
Yes. So our rating scale is a 5-point scale, with 1 being very unsatisfied. 2 out of 5 is regularly unsatisfied. 3 out of 5 is neutral. A 4 out of 5 is satisfied, and a 5 out of 5 is very satisfied. And anything off the charts is Super Saiyan. So I'm going to go ahead and get
Wow.
started. And I think I'm going to be the outlier here, giving it a 3 out of 5 neutral. It's too coffee for me without, and then a double whammy. I'm a double weirdo. I also am not a fan of chocolate. I'll eat a little piece of chocolate and it's too much for me. So if you love chocolate and you love coffee, I think this will be for you. It's just not for me. So I'm going to give it a neutral.
Ooh, that's not good.
Fair enough.
What about you, Jen?
I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5 because personally, I love coffee and I love the taste of chocolate. So like whatever cinnamony-esque thing it's got going on in the background, I like the texture, I like the flavor, I this tasted so good to me, and I'm still like drinking it. And the thing is, like, whereas the one that we drank before, the last time we recorded. It was very sweet. The pumpkin spice Dunkin' one.
Oh yeah.
It was very sweet, but it was also like pretty like light. So I was able to chug that thing, and I could easily see myself knocking back like a 6-pack of those. This I have to sip because it's like that. It lends itself more easier to sipping than to like just glugging it down. So 5 out of 5 for me.
Yes, I'm gonna also give it 5 out of 5. I really like the different levels of flavor to this. The chocolate, which is sort of a dark chocolate, it's not a sweet chocolate, so you get kind of a tanginess at the back end. The oatmeal, the cinnamon, especially love when I kept a little bit of head. That was really buttery, so I really enjoyed
Head.
it. 5 out of 5. I said head, yes. All right, guys, now it's time for our book review. What are we reviewing today?
So today we have another zine, and it is. Sorry, I had to scroll all the way to the top. Why didn't anyone tell me what Chicano means? An autobio zine by Vinny Vistazo.
Picked this book up at Latino Comics Expo 2024.
Mhm.
Is there? I don't think there's a kind of a. I guess the title says it all, like what this book is gonna be, what the zine's gonna be about. So, what
Mhm.
did you think, Jen?
I enjoyed reading it. But this is one of those where I enjoyed reading it. I enjoyed reading about their experience. Even the fact that like they I I honestly loved how they grew up too. They're so worldly, due to like their family's job and stuff like that, and how they were raised and stuff like that. But I'm not gonna lie, I always feel envy to people who are able to travel freely back and forth.
Yes.
Due to just proximity, and to so some of the stuff was relatable, but then a lot of the other things I was just like, wow, you had a really unique experience growing up, and I'm glad that you're able to like in a sense come to terms with it, or at least able to see the good. But some of this I was just like, couldn't be me. Because I just didn't have that experience. Because I was always surrounded uh by people who could speak Spanish, who could only speak Spanish. So I got a little bit of like both worlds as well. Um but I also know what they mean about the like los otros,
Mhm.
basically. Because I know I've had this discussion with my best friend too. Because she used to say, and she doesn't anymore, but she used to say she was just like she would be like, God, I hate Mexican Americans, and I was just like, aren't you Mexican American? She's like, not like that. Um,
Okay.
uh,
Excuse me.
No, because she spoke Spanish. And I think she just had like some bad confrontations with people who would basically be like, why do you speak Spanish? Like kind of like how they did. Like they were just very Americanized and very white, or trying to be white, whereas she has always been so assured of her identity, and who she is and what she is and what she comes from. And she would just hate interacting with basically whitexican.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Uh and so that's what she meant by it. So I was just so like, okay. Now, to me personally, I've never felt any emotional attachment to the word Chicano, simply because to me it's always been such a Mexican heavy focus, which is like really good, because and it makes sense because California is majorly made up of mostly Mexican Americans and Mexican immigrants, and like there is still a very prominent diaspora of other Latin American countries. But to me, the term Chicano has always been very Mexican. So I was never able to relate to it. I liked it well enough, but I would never call myself a Chicana. I still wouldn't call myself a
Yeah.
Chicana. Simply because to me, I'm just like, I'm not Mexican.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed the story, kind of a lot actually. And like you said, like I was really impressed with the way they grew up. Where they were able to travel out for the father's work to China, which God, I mean, I still haven't gone to China. Hello, like so that's something I cannot relate to. I do relate to a lot of the story though. Like for me, I don't think. I mean, I still don't know how to even describe myself honestly. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because there's different levels. I mean, I speak a different level of Spanish and English versus another person who might have studied correct Spanish versus another person that they're calling Yo Sabo kids.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't know where I fall on the spectrum of where I am. All I know that growing up younger, the young people that would come over from Mexico and end up around our circle of people that we interacted with, they would call me pocha. And I hated it because it sounds so horrible. But
Mm-hmm.
nobody explained it to me. It was just calling. It's like calling me stupid. I don't know what it really means. Like, do you really think I'm stupid? What does pocha mean? Like, I don't understand it. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to understand it, and I ended up hating it, and I still don't know what it means. But with the kind of the same sense, I'm not like really sure what Chicano means, because
Mm-hmm.
to me that sounds like a really kind of older word, like from the 1970s. So I
Yeah.
can't really identify with it either. And then Latino, Latinx, and Latina, that's something that I kind of grew into. But Hispanic was something I always just heard on the news. Like I didn't. And for the
Mm-hmm.
longest time when I was young, I would just call myself Mexican until I went to Mexico. But because there's a certain part, like you go to Mexico when you're little and you're just cute. Oh, she speaks English. How do you say hello? Or,
Mm-hmm.
like whatever, right? And it's cute. But once I was like in middle school and I went to Mexico and somebody, I don't remember, my uncle said, "Oh, what are you?" And I said, "I'm Mexican. Soy
Mm-hmm.
mexicana. Tú no eres mexicana, tú eres americana." Pero ellos no, they don't think I'm American. They call me Mexican and I think I'm Mexican because you've never lived in Mexico. You're not Mexican. You don't even
Mm-hmm.
speak Spanish right. What do you mean? What do you mean I don't speak Spanish right? You have an accent. I do not have a fucking accent. How dare you? And
Mm-hmm.
it was those things that were like, they kept slapping me in the face every time I visited Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came back, the same shit in reverse kept slapping me in the face. Like, you're not say you speak with an accent when you speak English, or shit like that. So I I guess I've always been on the fence, kid. What about you, Kristen?
Well, I've definitely spoken about my cultural identity many times. My experience is that growing up with a Mexican grandmother and great grandmother, whose great grandmother spoke to me only in Spanish, but because I felt unsure about speaking Spanish because my mother didn't speak Spanish to me. We spoke solely English in our home. And in fact, my grandmother mostly spoke only English to me. She spoke Spanish perfectly. She immigrated over here when she was 12. So she grew up and met a lot of her time. She was the oldest of 12, actually. And so she spoke Spanish very fluently, but only spoke English to me. And like my great grandmother would speak to me in Spanish, and I understood what she was saying, but I always responded to her in English. I find it very interesting that um, all three of us here are considered by some way, shape, or form, and different groups of people Latina, but we all have such different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I aced Spanish in high school because it was spoken to me when I was a kid, and so I knew all the words and I understood what was being said to me. the conjugation was a little bit of a difficulty for me. And I minored in Spanish in college, so I actually had to read books and write papers solely in Spanish. Back in the day where I had to manually add the accents with my
Yeah.
because my word processor didn't have the ability to be able to do
When
that.
word processors were a thing.
Um, and so, and also right out of college, went to work for an organization where I specifically worked with migrant farm worker women who were victims of domestic violence. So, so I have so much of a connection to working with Latinas and working with the community, but it didn't come really mostly from my own personal experiences because I grew up in white Central California. I grew up in Trump Town, USA. My mother married a white guy. My father's Mexican. My mother's Mexican, but she married a white guy. I grew up in a middle class white neighborhood. Thinking back, I don't even think that I can name one other brown person that lived in my neighborhood. There was oh no, I'm lying. Our next door neighbors were, I'm guessing Mexican. I don't know, but very, very whitewashed, just like I was. And so it wasn't until I went to college and started seeing all of these different, like, there's other Latinos. I didn't even know that word or use that word. I also, like you, Sarah, identify myself as Mexican for my entire childhood and not really understanding what that meant as far as nationality. I just use it as culturally, ethnically, that was what I was. And then I started using Mexican American because yes, I'm American. I was born here. And it wasn't until much later that I never used the word Hispanic. And it wasn't until much later that I started using the word Latina. But I think that I identified a lot with the story that Vinny was writing as one of those people that fall into the group that her mother identified as los otros. 100%, that's who I was. And my grandmother had a lot of internalized racism. Looking back, I can see it 100%. She would always basically tout with pride that she came over, quote unquote, the right way. That she was part of this program where her father was enlisted into a program where they asked
The Bracero program.
well, no, I don't know. It wasn't in the fields. They came over to build the railroad. And so he built the railroad and stopped in Hanford, California. And that's where they settled and grew their family and stuff. And so she always spoke in a way that to me meant that she looked down on, for her, the others who came over and worked here legally. She was so proud of her her citizenship and my grandmother's naturalization. And I think that I heard more than a handful of times her talking negatively about Mexicans or other Latinos who weren't assimilating the way that she was. And so that was the situation that I grew up in. And it wasn't, like I said, till I went to college and started getting a more worldly view. I actually started speaking to these women who were immigrants and migrant farm workers. Most of them were not here legally, but most of them were so educated and so smart and were being so downtrodden because they were illegal and they were lawyers and doctors and all of these amazing things in Mexico, but when they came here, they were waitresses or they were maids at a hotel or they were, cleaning in offices after they had closed down because they just weren't able to get any type of jobs here with their own certifications because it just doesn't work that way, which is dumb. But and so I kind of started identifying how my grandmother was passing down that internalized racism to me, and how I kind of saw my world through that view until I moved away from school. And so it was really interesting to me to read the story and actually get the concept that I had actually never heard about before as a third culture. That makes perfect sense to me, where you don't, and like Sarah, you were saying, you didn't, that term that you hear, ni de aquí, no, or
Ni de allá.
ni de allá. And so if you're not accepted in either place, you got to make your own. And so it kind of a little bit different for me because I never felt not accepted in the white world, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
And I think it was because I was just blind to it. I never.
It never occurred to you that you weren't.
Yeah, it never did until I grew up and went to college and started seeing dichotomy everywhere with race and ethnicity and culture, and it was honestly an eye-opener to me. But the one thing that I found super, super interesting to me that made all the sense in the world, but that I had never thought of, now I'm just gonna quote the book that Vinny wrote. They said, I'm sorry, I keep misgendering or using the wrong pronoun, so I don't know that they go by what their pronouns are.
He, him, or they.
Okay, I didn't see it anywhere, so I wasn't.
No, I didn't see it anywhere either, but they were, from what I got from it, they were presenting as masks. So
okay, yeah. We said that there was a brief mention in there. So Vinny says, aligning closer to the American ideal, notably white, can protect them, and by them, Latinos, from alienation and hurt, antipathy and violence, racism, and police brutality. The root of this is anti-Blackness. Even though brown people aren't considered Black, if they refuse to align with whiteness, they will be treated the same as Black people are in the U.S. Instead of uniting with the Black community and making this world a better place for all of us, instead of doing that, it's easier to align with whiteness. And it kind of like, that was a light bulb moment for me, because in reading the book, you see that it's super, super recent, because they actually refer to Trump being elected for a second time. And I think there were so many shocked people when they heard the percentage of Latinos who voted for Trump. And reading that and knowing that percentage really makes a lot of sense. And I had never thought about it like that before, but there are so many places in our society where Black people and brown people are pitted against each other, and it's by design. The people in power want it that way, because if they ever aligned, it would be a stronger, unified group than they could ever handle. And it's just too sad that we aren't able to come together in that way. And
time and time again, people fall for it. They fall for it, and they perpetuate stereotypes and racism and xenophobia. And it, honestly, it's tragic. But I mean, there's also, to me, there's always been like, you have to be willing to be open, and you have to be willing to learn. And some of these people don't. And you know what? Yeah, you know what? I do hate you.
Well, one of the things that I found really interesting is when Vinny was studying in China, and they were in the international.
The international school.
Yeah, and this Belgium kid was calling them wetback. And
I know. I'm like, where
Yeah.
do you know that word from?
yeah,
Yeah.
where's the word from? We're not even in America. We're not even in Belgium. We're in China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the?
There's no river here.
Yeah.
There's no Rio Grande.
You're wrong.
Yeah.
motherfucker. I thought that was a really interesting fact that there's so much racism in that school in China towards them, which I thought was like, wow, really? How ridiculous can you get? Like, seriously?
I mean, it's also because a lot of these places, like, yeah, America has a race problem, but you know what? At least we're aware of it. We have classes, we have study. They're like, oh, well, there's so much race in like America. And they're like, it's not racist here. No, it is. You just chosen to ignore it. Like, I can tell you right now that y'all are racist. Y'all just don't want to see it.
Yeah. Like,
I'm so pressed. I'm so pressed.
when I go to Nicaragua, I probably don't see the racism because there's not many races that like go immigrate to Nicaragua, but there is a bunch of colorism and classism, and that's almost, I feel worse. Like, seriously, just because of the color of your skin, I'm gonna treat you a little bit worse than I treat that person with lighter blue eyes and shit, whatever.
Because we're not as used to dealing with it, I think. Class and colorism is, it's a whole different beast, because I'm like, I don't know if what you're telling me is like it's most likely a backhanded compliment, but I don't know how to tell quite yet. So I can't be quite as angry.
Right. So I think this book opens up the conversation of all these different types of ways that we grew up, even though we speak both English and Spanish, maybe a little bit different, maybe use a little different words for cake, a little different words for a tamal, a different word for like a chicken sandwich. But in a sense, we're all the same, and also very different. And I think that opens up this conversation in this book. What I really loved about this book is that I found out they are a fan of Maldita Vecindad, which is a band, and it's kind of like a ska rock band in Mexico. And again, the name is Maldita Vecindad, and they quote the lyrics of one of their songs is like, es más fuiste pachuco, también te regañaban, es más bailabas mambo, tienes que recordarlo. Anyway, I thought that was super cool because it kind of like bridged that identity that they were also carrying, which is kind of like a Pachuco identity. I guess it was from the way that they spoke and the way they dressed and stuff like that, which I didn't even think was a whole identity in itself. But now thinking about the band, I see, oh yes, I see it now. Tintan, I see it now. Like, there's some things that even I am still learning just by reading this comic. I mean, this zine. So I thought that was really cool.
Well, going back to the actual title, honestly, no one ever explained it to me either. I don't think I heard that term until I went to college. And
Chicano studies.
yeah, Chicano studies. And I learned a lot in Chicano studies, even though I was brown and grew up in, a family where most of us were brown, except for my stepfather. I learned a lot and appreciated what I learned. And with the term Chicano, I always have identified it or associated it with like social movement and like grassroots type political involvement. I don't know why, but that's just my own personal, like, when I hear the word, that's what I think. And so I also have never been comfortable calling myself Chicana. I don't feel like I identify with that word at all. And I understand the whole political, I mean, like, the US government did so much to stop the Chicano movement the same way they did to stop the Black Panther movement.
Yep.
And so I understand all of that, and it kind of makes me upset now that I use the term Latina to describe myself. Because I feel like I'm like not giving it to the man.
Yeah.
But that's just how what I've I went from Mexican American, or I went from Mexican to Mexican American to Latina. So and now Latinx.
Right.
Honestly, most of the time now when people ask me, I just say indigenous. And then they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Native American?" I'm like, "No, not
Yeah.
that either." I'm just
Yeah.
like indigenous.
Well, and for Mexicans, the truth is, yeah, we are Native American because we are a fucking first.
Mhm.
And that also brings another argument, because I don't know if you guys remember for that movie Roma, that was on Netflix, black and white, and there was an indigenous actress that was nominated for best supporting actress, I believe. I don't remember if she won, but there was a Mexican telenovela actor who isn't even Mexican, but I think I don't know where he was from. He's definitely not from Mexico, but he was a very handsome man in his youth, and he was white looking, and he has green eyes. Said Hyogoiri is his name. And somebody recorded him while he was at dinner or lunch with a bunch of people and said, "No puedo creer que esa India la haya nominado para un Oscar. I can't believe they nominated that Indian for an Oscar."
Mhm.
Like,
It also reminds me of that one councilman who was talking smack about Oaxacan Oaxaqueños. And he was calling them derogatory things even though he himself was Mexican American, but he was talking smack about Oaxacan immigrants, and I'm just all like, "Wow.
yes.
No wonder you lost that seat. You deserve it. You don't deserve it."
Yeah, definitely that is something that is going to be something we all deal with. I mean, whether they say it to our face or whether they say it behind our back. I mean, it's just a thing. And so, like, it's hard to kind of brand ourselves and come to terms with what we want to be called or what we identify. I like your take, indigenous. I love that. But definitely this zine has definitely um, stirred these ideas and just made us have this conversation, which I think is really, really, really important too, because um, it makes you maybe want to learn more about other things that might pertain to who you are and identify as. So I thought that was really quite fantastic. Um, but yes, I think we're ready to rate the book. What is our rating scale?
So our rating scale is on a scale of 1 to 3 conchas. 3 conchas being the best because it's the most that Jen's mom ever let her eat in one sitting. So if it is a book that we feel is more than 3 conchas, then we have something special for that too. So I'll go ahead and start. I'm gonna give it 3 conchas. I really enjoyed it. It made me think. It was a lot of words. Sarah, quit making me read so many words. um, and there was some art in there, and I did appreciate the art. We didn't get to. Jen and I only got to see scans of it, so the scanning kind of didn't allow us to appreciate the art as much as I think we could have if we had the real zine in our hand. But I did appreciate the art for what I could see, and I really enjoyed the story that we got of Vinny's whole entire cultural evolution. So I'm gonna give it 3 conchas.
Awesome. What about you, Jen?
I'm also gonna give it 3 conchas. It was a very interesting read. I love reading other perspectives, and like even being able to relate, or just like the story of someone's life and like how they grew up and stuff like that. I really enjoyed it. I loved the artwork that I was able to see. Um, um, Vinny has really good writing prose. It all flowed really well. I will admit sometimes I got a little confused by the panels. I
Mhm.
didn't know what order I was supposed to read them in until I realized I was like, this sentence does not make sense. And then I would have to reread it. I'm just like, okay, now the flow is better. Um, um, so format wise, sometimes it would throw me off. Um, but overall, I really enjoyed it, and I love that it was able to spark this discussion as well. Which I think a good thing should do. So 3 escuchas from me.
Awesome. I really enjoyed it. I have a lot of questions about myself now, as well as some things that I haven't thought about in a long time, like the term pocha and how I felt about it, and my trips to Mexico and how they kind of shaped where I saw myself as a person who spoke, who speaks English and Spanish and looks Mexican, and just all the stuff. Because also, I mean, I could go on, but my Mexican side of the family would sometimes say, "Why do you talk like white girl?" Which that's a whole other story. Yeah, I got picked on a lot by that. But yeah, I found it to be really eye opening, and I just really love the conversation we had about it, and the conversation that I continue to have in my head about this. So I'm gonna give it tres cochas and a cup of champurrado. And you could learn more about Vinny on their Instagram, vinnyvistazo.com. That's VINNY, V as in Victor, ISTAZO.com. You can find more of the items they have. They are also musicians, and I saw some of their CDs on the table, and the description was really just great. I don't want to mess it up because I don't actually remember, but I think it was something towards like if you're walking through a forest while playing a video game type of music in the background music. Like it was just like um, this really great description. I thought that was so cool. So again, if you want to learn more about them, they do have an Instagram, but they said they rarely post there and they link their website. So definitely check that out. Follow them for more awesome stuff. And that has been our book review. All right, guys, now it's time for En la Libreria. Jen, what do you have for us today?
So today I have for you Roll Tide. Roll Out. Sorry, Roll Tide. That's a little different thing.
I'm like, are we in Alabama?
No, Roll Out. Roll Out First Love issue number 1, 32-page full color. Follow sophomores Andres and Rayval as they go on a journey of self-discovery while navigating their first gay love story. This is being done by Verissa Washington, and we have actually reviewed a previous comic of hers on Webtoon called Roll Out. So this is actually, the Kickstarter is for a prequel that takes place a year before their Webtoon setting takes place. Verissa is a Black comic creator based in Phoenix, Arizona. So her mission is to create comics that aid the expression on how love is depicted in media for people often marginalized. All people should be able to love who they want safely, despite race, gender, or sexuality. And she has a website called verissawashington.com, where you can check out her items. I remember reading, when I saw the Kickstarter and I saw her name, I was just like, that kind of looks familiar. It wasn't until I mentioned it to Kristen that she was just like, that does sound familiar. And then we actually looked it up, and then we realized, oh, we've already reviewed her webtoon. So, as I said, this is a prequel that takes place a year before her actual webtoon. And I gotta say, immediately what came to mind was, oh my god, her artwork has improved so much. We all gotta start from somewhere. And just I went back and I saw, and just you can see how she gets better as an artist, and she is on a completely different level. And I mean this in the best possible way ever. Like, I think for a lot of artists, the goal is to, it's not always improving, but like that there is that, but also there's always like adapting and changing your style and getting like in like really developing what makes you you. And I think 100% she has achieved that. She now has her own recognizable style, because that is what I immediately noticed also about the artwork too. I was just like, this looks familiar. And I was right. And congratulations, Verissa. You are doing an amazing job. Your artwork looks amazing. Your coloring is amazing. You have a style, and I cannot like little claps. Definitely check it out. So Roll Out First Love comic follows the story of two teen boys who, despite their differences, realize that they might have a secret in common. The story is set in present day Phoenix, Arizona, It's a grounded tale that explores the nuanced challenges faced by gay and bisexual youth today and the necessary courage it takes to embrace one's true feelings despite them. This work includes the modern issues in the background of the story. Minor themes include the attack of LGBTQ teachers and education in the K 12 public education system, the under and over representation of LGBTQ media, and blatant or microaggressive homophobia of today's culture. Despite these things, this is a love story. The first tissue is optimistic. A gay bisexual teen romance and drama. It is recommended for ages 14 and over. It is a great addition to those who are fans of the LGBTQ comics or the boys love BL genre. And then she has previews of the comic, how it is, and you can always, of course, go to Webtoon, look up "Roll Out" by Verissa Washington, and read it for free. She is looking to raise $1,000 for this Kickstarter. She currently has 120 with 7 backers and 26 days to go. You can always support, make a pledge without expecting no reward. You just want to show your support. But the base pledge starts at $7, where you get a digital copy of Rollout First Love. The next tier is $10, which is the Rollout First Love Standard Edition. This is the physical copy shipped to you. And then they have a guest variant cover that's also at $10. And another cover, and then there's Rollout First Love Moonlight variant. So this is done in the style of Moonlight the movie. Devastating movie, by the way. Highly recommend you watch it. At $15. And then if you want the First Love comic with poster, it's $25. And then there's a retailer tier as well that is at $35. You get 3 copies of the standard and one of each of the variant copies for a total of 6 copies of the comic. And yeah, definitely check it out. It looks really great. I already know I love Verissa's work because I remember having a lot of fun reading Rollout as well, because it was like based on a roller rink, I think. Yeah, a roller rink. And Reval having the opportunity to like save it. So definitely check it out. It's Rollout, ROLL, OUT, First Love, issue number 1 on Kickstarter.
Awesome. All right, guys, now it's time for Juntos y Fuertes. Kristen, what do you have for us today?
So today I have for you Soul Book Box. You can go to Soul, and that's Soul as in the sun, Soul, SOLBOOKBOX, so soulbookbox.com. And it's basically a book online ordering program that specializes in bilingual books for ages 0 to 8. So you can, and it's a subscription service. So you can pay for 1 month, $24.98, and you get, you can do either the 0 to 4 age range or the 4 to 8. Or if you have a mixed family, you can do a mixed book box that will give you books that are appropriate for the ages of 0 through 8. And that's called the Familia Book Box. But basically, this whole entire company is focusing on encouraging young kids to speak Spanish and to be bilingual, and to also encourage parents to either better their Spanish or to learn Spanish with their children. So they have a lot of awards and positive feedback of people who have been participating and getting the books and just love it, and their kids love it. And they really see a lot of actual integration of their kids using Spanish words and starting to actually speak Spanish. So again, it is a book subscription service. 1 month for the 0 to 4 age range is $24.98. 3 months is $68.94, and 6 months is $125.88. And books are not cheap, but this is a price for, I think each book box had 5 books. So that's pretty good for you to get all those books for those prices over that long if you get the 6 months. And so again, the website is Soul Bookbox, SOLBOOKBOX.com.
Awesome. All right, guys, now it's time for saludos. And saludos goes out today to Emily Corona Sandoval. She's a Mexican-American vintage pinup artist based in Los Angeles. Her work is inspired by old cartoons, pop art, and old anime. She also studied animation as well as theater, vintage fashion, and vintage values. You can follow her on Instagram at alto_harlequin. That's ALTO_HARLEQUIN. Or you can buy some of her art at www.inprint, that's INPRNT.com. /canvas/alto_harlequin /. She also has a YouTube where she does 2D animation on YouTube, where you can see how she creates her artwork. And just look for it starts with an R, but I forgot to write it down.
Rinted?
Yes. Rintage, RINTAGE on YouTube to check out how she creates her artwork. So again, saludos to Emily Corona Sandoval. And don't forget to follow her on YouTube and check out her YouTube and purchase her stuff on the website imprint.com/canvas/alto_harlequin. Saludos goes out to you. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of this episode. Where can they find us besides comadrescomics.com?
You gave up the game already.
I know, gmail.com or comadrescomics.com.
So you can find us at our website at comadrescomics.com, where you can find all of the links to our social media, including Facebook, Instagram. We also have a TikTok and a YouTube. We are having technical difficulties uploading on our YouTube right now, so we are a little behind. But once we get that figured out, we have like 5 episodes that will be uploaded. And by the time you listen to this, that means that, well, if you're only listening, it means you can't see us. But if you're watching, it means we fixed it.
Yeah.
But yes, we still, you can still listen to us, weekly episodes on any major streaming platform.
Excellent. Thank you so much for listening and spending this time with us and sharing your time with us. We really appreciate it. We have been your host. I'm Sarah.
I'm Christy.
And I'm Jen.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's on Period Network.